What's up, world? Welcome back to Authentically Us, the podcast where we talk about what it means to be authentic in everything that you do in every space that you occupy. I'm Conroy Smith. I'm one of the hosts. And we got Tony here. Tony, say what's up to the people, man.
What's going on, y'all? I'm always here.
Guys, we have a wonderful guest today. But before we jump in, pause this podcast. Give us a review. Give us a rating. Give us a like. Go to our Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Follow us.
All of it. We're everywhere.
Everywhere. Follow us.
Can't get away.
Give us a rating.
From
also, go to our link tree.
That's
We have some resources there. And shout out to MSW for having us on their website and their platform. But without further ado, we have a wonderful guest today, and I don't want to hold y'all any longer. So let's get into it.
Let's go.
Guys, we have a special guest today. This lady is a author of Utility Player Life. She's a director of Positive Coaching Alliance. She's a speaker, an MC, a mentor, and an NCAA champion with UCLA softball. Marti Reed-Love recently on the podcast today. Marti, welcome to Authentically Us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Thank you both.
Yes, we are, first of all, excited. Also, congrats on your recent marriage, newlywed.
Thank you.
Hey.
Still on that high right now, you know.
Yes. Live on it. At least that's what Tony tells me. But we're gonna jump straight in to the podcast. Could you tell us a little bit and share with the listeners about your early years and what your childhood was like?
Yeah, so I grew up in Long Beach, California.
Where Snoop Dogg is from, right?
Yes, everybody knows Long Beach for Snoop Dogg. There's a lot more to Long Beach than Snoop, but that is a big part of it. But yeah, I grew up in Long Beach. I'm the youngest of three. My siblings and I are best friends. We're super competitive. I grew up at the baseball field. My dad was a professional baseball player in the minors. My brother played, so we were constantly at the fields. I ran track. I played volleyball, basketball. So we're really a sports family. I like to say I played everything that involved land and not water. So I was playing all types of sports. And yeah, it was really just a competitive kid. That was a way to get me out of my shell and make friends and just be very active. And that kind of led me to the trajectory of life that I'm on now, working in sports and everything like that. But yeah, I grew up in the church of Christian faith. I love my family. That's part of my core values. I'm a huge family person. But yeah, my childhood was I'd say pretty good. It was definitely strict. My dad was not a military man, but you would think he was, just the way he ran his household. We had chores. We couldn't go outside and play until our homework was done and chores were done and things like that. So yeah, he ran a very firm house, but it definitely shaped me to the person I am today. And then my mom, she's like my hero. She was a principal of elementary school for many, many years. She retired in 2018. And when she retired, they named the street after her. Like,
Wow.
she is a boss. So watching her and, just always striving to be the best version of herself, I get a lot of my drive and, that spirit, that entrepreneurial spirit from her. So that's just a quick little rundown of me and my upbringing.
Yeah.
So it's huge that you were a part of UCLA softball and won the championship. What got you into softball other than it being in your family?
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, I chose softball as like my competitive sport next level that I played in college because I was the best at it, to be honest. Volleyball is my favorite sport. If I'm keeping it real, I would have loved to play volleyball in college, but I just wasn't tall enough, wasn't good enough. But so understanding that, or I started getting recruited when I was in high school and started to see the trajectory of, okay, I can really take this somewhere. And I knew I wanted to go to a school that was academically just as competitive as it was athletically. And like I said, I'm a competitive person, and UCLA was that school for softball then, right? Right now, Oklahoma's got the crown. They've been going back to back championships, but back in the day when I was being recruited, UCLA was able to say, if you go here, you will win at least one championship ring. Like that's how much they had it on lock. They had the game in a chokehold. So, yeah, that was my favorite school. And my mom did take me to a UCLA softball game when I was 12 years old. And at that time, track was my main sport. But me being a young girl, going and watching a softball game and seeing a Black shortstop by the name of Natasha Watley wearing that UCLA across her chest, that's when the seed was planted. And I was like, I want to be her. I want to go here. I want to play softball. I didn't even know Black girls really played softball like that, you know? So seeing that, and I'm a huge proponent of like, if you can see it, you can become it. So that representation really matters. Seeing her, and she was on the Olympic team. She excelled. She's coached me. She's one of my mentors still to this day. We're great friends. She was at my wedding, everything. So I would say seeing someone that looked like me playing the position that I play was really what had me with that dream to play softball at UCLA.
So I'm curious how many other Black players were on the team when you were playing.
So my first Black teammate was when I got to be a junior. A freshman came in, Black girl, and then we had another transfer, Black girl. So I had two Black teammates.
You said this is your first Black teammate, and are you talking about college?
College. But hey, I did have a Black teammate when I was like 12 because I made my cousin come play.
So
other than that, never.
You're talking less than 5. You're literally saying less than 5.
Yeah, it looks much different now. There's so many more. I mean, you go look at UCLA softball today, super diverse. There's a lot of girls of color playing and participating, so I love to see it. But yeah, back when I was playing, it was far few in between.
Wow.
Yes.
So I'm even more curious of, you know, when you played softball, you were one of the few, like, yes, you saw this one Black lady doing it. Did you still struggle with, like, if I'm really Black, should I be doing a different sport?
Of course. People will come up to me. They would actually go up to my dad all the time and be like, you should put her in tennis. You should put her in, like, they would tell him to put me in a different sport. One, because like the opportunity to play at a professional level and actually make money was bigger in a sport like tennis. So that's really where they were coming at it. And also, you know, just to be around more of your kind, it feels more comfortable. There was definitely moments where I felt like an outsider on my own team, you know, being the only Black girl on the team, getting asked the questions all the time of like, oh, how do you do this dance? Or, you know, I'll tell you a quick story. I remember I was 9 years old, the first softball team I was on. And in softball, we do a lot of cheers, right? It's like we make up cheers. We're doing cheers all the time. So they're making up cheers to their songs. And a lot of the songs they'd make up cheers to would be like country songs that I'd never heard of, you know? So I'm in the dugout learning these cheers with them. And then I was like, I've got a song. I got a cheer I want to try. And my favorite group was Outkast. So I was like, aha, hit that ball, hit it up the middle. Let's go, Golden Chick. And I swear to you, they all just looked at me like I was crazy. And I was like, oh, okay, guess not. Like that was one of that first moment where I like saw, okay, you are not the same. Like, you know, I felt like an outcast on my own team. So yeah, there was a lot of moments like that where it was uncomfortable. So I think how I was able to overcome that really was just relying on my talent to just outshine everything else in a way where they just had to shut up and kind of watch me do my thing. You know, they couldn't really say anything when I was out there balling, right? Like when I was out there succeeding. But I will say it wasn't just in softball, it was also in school, you know, being one of the only Black kids in like the gifted classes and people saying, oh, you speak so well, you know, or, oh, you're so beautiful for a Black girl, like these backhanded compliments. and these microaggressions that at the time I didn't really know how to react to them or what to say to them. But looking back on it, and, as I've grown in this diversity, equity, and inclusion space as well, understanding what microaggressions are and the impact that they have long term, I speak about this a lot now to coaches and to athletes today, and how to, manage those things, and how to, make sure that we're not just letting those subtle things slide, because they'll perpetuate and continue and add more issues and problems in the long run.
Yeah, Tony and I talk a lot about those little microaggressions. We grew up we were talking before, you went to Williamsport, and Tony and I are from a very small town. So plenty of microaggressions essentially our whole lives. And especially when it comes to sports. Now, I played rugby professionally for a little bit, and rugby in the United States, right? Essentially, there is a stereotype. Like, if you are fast and black, they throw you on the end because then they put you at wing. So most black players that play rugby here in the United States are on the wing. Is there a position in softball where they're like, oh, that's do they essentially label you and put you in a position?
I would say they automatically assume that I was a slapper, which is like left-handed, where you run and tap the ball and just use your speed to get on base. But no, I batted right-handed, I swung, and I hit for power. And that was something that they just assumed, like, oh, she must be a slapper because she's fast. Yeah, I would say that would be the position as far as like hitting. And then defense wise, probably center field, shortstop, where like the fast girls are.
Yeah. It's interesting that is a thing, and obviously I love what you're doing with the company that you work for, Positive Coaching Alliance. But before we jump into that, I did want to pull back and talk about what made you choose UCLA. Like, out of all the colleges, like, why UCLA?
Well, I wanted to win a championship. I did. Number one, I was like, man, just like, it's hard to say no when you walk into, on my recruit trip, and they like put the rings on you and they show you all the trophies, and they're rolling out the red carpet, and you're just like, wow, this is amazing. And like I mentioned prior, I wanted to go somewhere where it was just as competitive academically, because academics was big for me. I knew softball wasn't going to be the end all be all to my life and my future. So where can I get a great education and also potentially win a championship? So UCLA was that number one choice. I was getting recruited by other schools, and I almost went to Cal Berkeley. I almost signed with Cal, but then it turned out, because UCLA actually didn't have any more athletic scholarships. And I was a scholarship athlete. Like, for me, you couldn't tell me I wasn't going somewhere and getting paid, financially covering my school to go to that school and play softball, right? Where I'm getting offers from Stanford, all these schools that are great, so to go to UCLA, where they didn't even have an athletic scholarship available the year I was coming in, because they needed a catcher and I wasn't a catcher, I was just going to go to Cal. And then Cal actually called us and was like, our pitcher broke her arm. We have to give your scholarship away to a pitcher. We still want you to come here, but we don't have, and at that point I was like, wait a minute. Like, okay, if that's the case, I'm just going to go to UCLA. And I ended up getting academic scholarship enough to pay for my first 2 years there. And then the second 2 years I was on athletic scholarship. So it was a full circle moment, and actually a blessing in disguise, because if I would have gone there on a full ride athletically, then I would have just been in this softball bubble and not really ventured out and been involved in things on campus. Because in order to keep that academic scholarship money coming in, I had to go to meetings, I had to be involved, I had to do community service, do all these things. So that was a blessing in disguise, because when you're on a campus like UCLA, there's so many cool things and so many opportunities and cultures and stuff to learn. And if you just stick into your athletic box and athletic bubble, it's kind of a missed opportunity, in my opinion, being able to experience both like that.
Yeah, that's one thing I regret from college is staying with like my athletic bubble. I ran track in college, and then also just staying within my major. And I went to Liberty University. And just so you know, May 20th this year, Liberty upset UCLA, but we don't have to talk about it. In softball,
that was heartbreaking.
it was very heartbreaking.
It was heartbreaking.
It was great for us. It was great for us. But yes, that's one thing I do regret is not being able to branch out. I'm like, man, I went to a school, even you went to UCLA, where so many cultures are there, so many different ethnicities, different perspectives. I'm like, oh man, I wish I would have branched out. But you have one thing that I never could achieve, which is a national championship. So walk me through what that year looked like up until the last inning. Like I want to hear kind of like your perspective.
Yeah. Well, so funny that you mentioned Liberty and that upset because it reminded me of my freshman year and when we got upset by Missouri. We were the second ranked team in the country and an unranked team beat us and knocked us out of regionals. We had the exact same team the next year, the year we won it all, my sophomore year, with just maybe we lost one senior. So pretty much we should have had 2 championships. We knew we were the best team that year. So having that like upset the year before really just woke us up and like lit a fire within us where we were like, we never want to feel like that again. Like, wow, we're supposed to be there at the end and we got upset. That was just so humiliating. So we didn't take any game for granted. Like my sophomore year, we came out there like every single game with a focus as if it was the championship game. We would practice with crowd noise on because when you're at the championship, when you're in OKC and you're at that arena, it's so loud. Like you can't hear the person that's like 10 feet away from you because everyone is just it's a different level, right? So we would practice with crowd noise on. We practice nighttime sometime with the game lights and just like creating that noise where we would have to just be so focused on playing your game. So the way we locked in that year was impressive and we gelled. We felt like a family, you know? And when we were at the College World Series, I remember everyone was there. All the other teams, it's the top 8 teams, you know, and they do interviews right beforehand of like, tell us where you're from. Tell us, you know, a fun fact about you, right? And we weren't allowed to say anything about our personal lives. Our coach, it was like we came for business and business only. Like we weren't allowed to be like, oh, my favorite show is Game of Thrones. Like we couldn't say anything like that. It was like
a business trip.
This isn't about you. It's about the team. Like that's the mentality that the coach had ingrained in our heads.
Locked in.
And I get it. It's different now. They're a lot more able to like be themselves and show their personality and stuff. But when we were participating in this back then, oh my gosh, it was like a different level. And we were hated by the other teams because of that. They were like, UCLA thinks they're so good. They think this, and it was true. We did feel that way. They even had an amusement park there and we weren't allowed to go on the rides. They had like rented it out for all the 8 teams. All these teams are like playing, giggling, having fun, and we just had to sit there and watch them. So our coach was like, we're not here for that. Dang. So it was strictly business and focus. And then, yeah, we hit a stride and did not back down. I think what a lot of people don't understand is like to win a championship, everything has to work at the right time, right? Like the team has to be healthy. You know, we got to overcome injuries, all these different things, and you have to show up when it matters most, right? John Wooden talks about competitive greatness when your best is needed, right? So we really exemplified competitive greatness. The championship game was against University of Arizona. It went into extra innings. I ended up scoring the tying run in the game. That felt like an out of mind, out of body experience. Literally, I felt like I was watching myself from above. It was wild. But I remember thinking, like, whoever scores is gonna win this game. Like, whoever ties it up, or if they if they give us one more shot, we're gonna win the whole thing. And we did. We ended up winning the entire series, and it was amazing. I had a moment. I mean, we were crying, jumping on each other, celebrating. It was wild because there's really not much to do out there. So we went to IHOP after the game. Like, oh, you just win the championship and you went to IHOP. Like, I mean, what else are we gonna do? So, but yeah, it's wild because in those moments, like, the other team, they did great. They're such a great ball club. And we were the ones that came out on top that day. And I just remember thinking, like, man, we were this close to beat on that side of the coin. And I just can't imagine, what that's like. Like, when you win something and in that moment you're celebrating, you look over and you see they have the opposite reaction. It's just like, oh my gosh, wild.
And so, like, that's a lot of pressure. I'm thinking what your coach said of, like, we're not here for that. We're here for business. It's a lot of pressure. Talk to
Yeah.
us about how you navigated your mental health um during your career, and what advice would you give to other athletes?
I think that's a really good question. I'm much better at acknowledging and speaking about this now, but I would say when I was in it, I struggled with this a lot. I struggled with performance pressure when I got to UCLA, especially being a walk-on recruited athlete. Like, there is a different feeling when you're not on a full ride athletic scholarship and some of your teammates are. You're kind of getting put into this bucket where you feel like you have to work even harder and prove yourself, right? So I constantly fluctuated in and out of the lineup. I felt like I was like that first person off the bench. And prior to UCLA, I'd never sat the bench before. So that was really a humbling experience. And I dealt with performance pressure. And back then, I didn't know what to call it. I didn't know I was dealing with anxiety at the time, constantly, questioning my worth and my value. Knowing that I could have gone to any other school and been like the star player, but I chose to go to, this school that had a freaking squad where everybody were all Americans. You're battling against the best of the best, and that's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure. I would say I had to constantly practice managing my emotions, and I think sports just in general has such a unique gift to help us manage stress. And I always call it like positive stress. If you put it in that perspective, I try to perspective align and remind myself in those moments, because, like, I'm not on an operating table as a surgeon trying to save somebody's life in this moment, right? That's a different pressure. I'm trying to perform for my team in the bottom of the 7th inning with the bases loaded and 2 outs. That is pressure. And in that moment, you don't know what is what, right? It still feels that deep and that heavy. So being able to kind of take a step back and kind of remind myself of the perspective I'm taking, that this is a chosen pressure that I'm feeling right now. This is chosen stress. This is positive stress. I can get through this. So it was constantly writing that story that I was telling myself in my head in those moments, practicing my breathing deeply, breathing slowly, trying to slow things down, and having just valuing the relationships that I had in my life, having people around me that cared about me beyond my performance out there on the field was crucial for my career in competitive sports. Like my mom, my brother, being able to call them, talk to them, let them know anything, right? I think music was a big thing for me as well. I had playlists that I can just put on that'll instantly change my mood. So these are just some of those like tangible things that I would suggest athletes today have and use, but also not being afraid to ask for help. Like if it does get so heavy, because sometimes it does feel like it's the world on your shoulders. I heard somebody say a quote one time where it's like, whether you're drowning in 50 feet of water or 3 feet of water, you're still drowning, right? You don't know the difference there. So not minimizing someone's experience and really knowing that it's okay to share and talk to someone about it and not be silent. I feel like over these past, I'd say 2, 3 years, the stigma around mental health, especially for athletes, has been um, broken down much more. Thank God, because when I was going through it, it wasn't something you talk about. I just feel like sports in general is a culture of, you're supposed to be tough. You're not supposed to show weakness. You're not supposed to, admit when you're struggling, because then, that could maybe affect your playing time or something, right? So being able to have those outlets and trusted resources and people around you that you can go to, I think is crucial and very important.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends who were college athletes, especially women, and I feel like I hear either they had a great experience with their college coach or they
Yeah.
had a horrible experience with their college coach. And I think as a fellow college athlete, it was hard. Like there was no guidance, especially around mental health. It was just like
Mhm.
you just go to practice. Like our therapy was practice.
Right.
And yes, that worked some
Mhm.
of the time, but what about after practice where we had to go home, where we're stressed with family things or we're stressed with relationships and I still have this paper to write, but I'm
Yeah.
still not over what happened from earlier today or whatever, and I,
Yeah.
I think, like you said, it is a thing that is talked about now. But
Mhm.
I know when I was in college, you even mentioned when you were in college, there was nothing.
No.
So you mentioned now recently you are better at it now. What changed?
Honestly, seeing um, athletes, professional athletes like Kevin Love and
Mm.
Naomi Osaka and Simone Biles like speak openly about these issues. These are elite athletes, right? Um, that are breaking that stigma. I feel like that has helped a lot. Once you break the silence, you break the stigma, and it allows us to really, you know, not feel ashamed or afraid to admit when we're going through something or when things are hard. So I think that's one thing, because before, when no one was talking about it, you don't really know, you didn't know how to name it. You didn't even know what you were dealing with at the time. Um, so I think that's changed. And just having a new perspective on my life and my worth and my value, and it not being so tied to outcomes and results.
Ooh,
I feel like I wasn't as good at
yeah,
that
it's tough.
when I was in college, right? Going through it when I was a competitive athlete. Yeah, I'm looking at my
Yeah,
stats.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm
because you're
looking at the
fighting for a
results.
scholarship.
Yeah, I'm fighting for a spot and for a scholarship, and those things matter, right? It's as much as I want to say, no, you just worry about the process and let the rest take care of itself and don't look at that stuff, But now as an adult looking back on it, yeah, I'm much more in tune with a different side of success where it's not just tied to the end result, and it's tied to me being authentically myself and me walking in my purpose and me experiencing joy and love and, all these things that allow me to continue to keep going every day.
Love that.
So we've had a lot of athletes on the podcast, and they've talked about this athlete identity where um there came a point in their journey where they had to think through, who am I without my sport? Can you
Mm.
talk to us about what that was like for you?
That's literally what this book utility player life is all about. Nice segue there. No, but honestly, that's literally what I wrote the book about.
Mm-hmm.
How to understand my unique value proposition, who I am, what I can do now that the thing that I've worked so hard and dedicated so much of my life towards is coming to an end. Like that feeling is can be all consuming. It can be scary. It can be it's like we're experiencing retirement at such a young age and you have a whole nother life to live, right? And everything about you is tied into this one thing. So for me, I think because also knowing that I'm a woman in sports and I didn't have an opportunity to make millions of dollars with this skill set that I have in sports after I'm done with my college career, right? Always had my head thinking about other things that I'm passionate about beyond just the playing field. So that helped. And then also, like I mentioned earlier, because I had that academic scholarship, I had to get involved in a lot of other things on campus. So just branching out was another way for me to connect and like learn about other people and things and be more of a well-rounded individual rather than just so focused on my sport, knowing that like there's other things that bring me happiness in this world beyond softball. And then what it looked like for me, that transition, it wasn't as hard for me as it was for a lot of my friends because I started thinking about it sooner. I started sitting down with professors, teammates, parents, their friends, and just asking questions about like, what is it that you do? How'd you get into it? What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? Here's what, I'm interested in. Here's what I like to do. Da, 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 da. Now that you know a little bit more about me, is there anything that you would suggest that I do to grow in this space? Is there anyone you suggest that I sit down with and meet? Is there any books that you suggest I read? I started gaining these mentors and just being curious and asking questions and then asking them how I can provide value. Like some of them had their own, let's say, podcasts, and I would listen in and take notes for them. Just anything that I can do to learn from them. They don't teach you this kind of stuff in school.
No.
Right? I was getting this knowledge beyond the classroom at UCLA, right? That I was going to be able to use in life beyond sports. That was just invaluable to be honest. Like it was just crazy all the things that I was learning just from being able to be a sponge and soak up from different people that were already professionals in their life and willing to teach me how to do it. And I never asked for a job. I never was like, can you hire me? Or do you have any internship opportunities? I never asked for anything. But when I graduated, I had like 3 job opportunities and internships lined up. So I got to choose what I wanted to do.
That
just based on doing those informational interviews.
That's so wild to me. Like, because what are we, 21, 22 when we're graduating? What 21 and 22-year-old athlete is thinking about that? So to hear that, I'm thinking about when I was graduating. I was like, definitely not thinking about talking to no parents. Definitely wasn't talking to no professors. But it's also different, male versus female sports, right? I ran track, and track is a sport that you can continue post college.
For sure. Yep.
Softball, I don't know if you can. It's very small,
now
right?
They do have a professional league now, which is really cool to see. I've been watching on ESPN and stuff. So yeah,
which is amazing. But it's like I just feel like the opportunities is so small, especially, I mean, track and softball, right? They're not paid well, right?
Right.
So it was like, you got to figure it out, and I think for men, let me speak for myself. It's still been a hard separation because I ran track, and after track, I switched to rugby. So then I've had my stint with rugby, and I still play here and there, but to like completely like retire from it, it's like, I'm like, I want to, but people are like, are you retired? I'm like, I don't know. It is this hard push and pull to be a athlete, and to, like you said, to give up something you've done since the age of 8, 6, some of us 4 years old, and then be like, okay, I'm done with that. But I'm 30. Like, what do you mean I'm done with that? Like, I think I can still do it. And it's such a hard realization for an athlete to come to. So I'm assuming you talk about that a little bit in your book. Can you elaborate on kind of how you describe that? Also, what is a utility player?
Yeah. So a utility player in sports is a player that's capable of selling in multiple positions, right? When I was at UCLA, I came in as a shortstop, but then I played right field, first base, second base, honestly, anywhere the coach needed me, right? So being able to compete at multiple positions will be a utility player, right? So when I talk about a utility player in life, being able to adjust and adapt and create opportunities for yourself, right? Make yourself valuable to teams. And we all play multiple positions in life. We're all a family member to someone, right? We're all a friend to someone. We're a student. I say we're a student in life. Even if you're no longer in traditional school, you should still be finding ways to learn and grow in your life. I say we're all an athlete in life. I still have a competitive mindset. I still want to live a healthy lifestyle. Even though I'm not suiting up in gear and, uniform like I used to, I still consider myself an athlete in life. We're a professional in life, what you do to earn a living. And last but not least, a community member, how you make an impact on others. So I talk about, playing all these positions and being utility players in life. And when I wrote the book, it was really, how do we purposefully leverage those skills that we learn through our sport to take us where we want to go in life? And it's a lot of those things, like I just gave you an example, being able to meet and network and ask the right questions to learn and grow. That's one example. How do we use our skill set of time management, using our skill set of teamwork, using our skill set of understanding how to work with different personalities? So it's like, yeah, you might not have traditional job experience as a student athlete, but you do have a lot of skill sets that are going to be very useful. You're coachable, right? You're able to learn, adjust, adapt. You have leadership traits. Like, some of these things are hard to teach, right? So I think it's awesome to hire a former athlete in different jobs. And I think it's great to, a lot of people want to start off as an entrepreneur and they say, oh, I'm going to start a business, like right after they graduate. And it's like, well, how about you take some time to learn from someone first, get some of those skill sets, and then start your business, or start it on the side while you're learning the traits and while you're learning from someone who's going to take you under their wing and help you grow in these spaces and in these areas. So I wrote the book really to help athletes have less anxiety while they're going through this transition. You're gonna feel scared. That's normal. I'm not saying that this is gonna remove any fear. No, it's scary to, feel like you're starting over again. But I want you to understand, you're not starting from square one. You have some traits that are going to be very useful in these next chapters of your life. There's just some things you might need to let go of and learn how to transition and look at differently in your life after sports. Like, I talk about it on social media. I talk about different athlete identities that we can release in life after sports. Like, it takes us some time, but it's okay to no longer feel like you need to be the first, the only, or the best at every single thing that you do. Like, in your life after sports, we can let go of that and understand that this is about growing and learning. Making mistakes are okay as long as you're bouncing back and learning and continuing to grow.
What is your role as director for the Positive Coaching Alliance, and how does that benefit young athletes?
Yeah. So Positive Coaching Alliance, we've actually been around since 1998. This is a nonprofit organization that was started out of Stanford University, and it's national now. And I'm the director of all of our national partnerships. So we work with like the NBA, Little League International, all the governing bodies for youth sports, like USA Gymnastics, USA Football, etc. And they utilize us for leadership training and character building workshops for athletes, for coaches, for the parents of the athletes, really focus on that social emotional learning space. So we're not teaching X's and O's. Like I'm not teaching how to, dribble with your left hand to a basketball player or basketball coach. We're talking about how do you connect with an athlete? How do you make sure that they know that they're seen, they're valued, they're loved, where they're going to continue to want to come back and play and participate and get the benefits out of sports? Because oftentimes athletes quit because of a coach or a parent that like ruins the experience for them because they heavily emphasize winning or results. And they don't focus on the part that's most important for youth sports, which is developing the character of the athletes that you're coaching, right? We talk about sports being such a great place, a safe space for kids to practice failing and learning from failure, right? And managing that. Sports is a great place for kids to practice empathy and learn how to, get along and love people that don't have the exact same background as them, right? And these types of things aren't just an automatic. It just doesn't happen because you play sports. It happens when coaches and adults are intentional about teaching these life lessons and connecting these dots. So we help them do that with tangible resources and workshops. So they do get certified once they go through our workshops. We have online, live, Zoom, etc. So I really love it. It's like right up my alley. I'm passionate about this. I can talk about it every day. And I think it's really important because, if you're only participating in sports just to get the trophy, then it's a huge missed opportunity.
That's good.
So, you're a speaker. What's speaking been like, and what's been your favorite speaking engagement?
Okay. Well, it's kind of ironic when I hear, okay, I'm a speaker, because when I was a child, I was so shy. Like sports is what got me out of my shell and like with the ability to like speak in front of people. But I remember when I was a kid, I didn't talk. And that was largely because my siblings, they're super outgoing and they would just talk for me. And I remember I would just be quiet. Someone would say, "Oh, what's your name?" And I'd just stare and I look at my sister and my brother and then they would answer for me. So to know I went from that to now speaking on stages to like hundreds and thousands of people is wild. But and they asked me like, "Do you get nervous?" I do. Every single time I get nervous, I feel the jitters. It feels like game day to me. It feels like this is the thing now that I'm doing that feels like, all right, it's game time. I'm walking out there, and what keeps me able to, I'd say, excel in this space is that I don't look at myself as like I used to. I used to look at myself like this, where I got to come in there and say something that's just going to blow their mind. And they got to hear something from me that I need to say something that they've never heard before. And it's going to blow their mind. They're going to be like so grateful that I came and spoke at this event. Right. I used to put that kind of pressure on myself until recently I let go of that. And I said, listen, you're not the expert in the room. You're just here to contribute to the conversation. Right. I'm here to share something, and they might have heard it before. This is something that they definitely have heard before, but someone needs to hear it from you. I just have to remind myself, like someone needs to hear it from me because, they might see themselves in me. They might relate to me. They might have heard it from someone else, but it didn't click when they heard it from them, right? So I just remind myself that like, I'm here walking in my purpose. God has a plan for me, and this is a calling on my life. So I just remind myself that it's not about me. And if I just continue to step out there and, with authenticity, have fun with it, don't take myself too serious. I like to make people laugh. I like to also make people move and take action. So I watch and I study. I study preachers. I study comedians.
Yep.
Preachers make people move, right?
Yep.
And comedians make people laugh. So I like to keep it fun. I don't want people to be falling asleep when I'm up there giving a presentation, right? So I'm constantly working on my craft to grow and, get better in this space. And the second thing you asked was, what was my favorite speaking engagement? Honestly, I think I'm going to go with the moment I realized that, okay, this is a gift or this is a calling on my life. Or maybe the second moment I realized that. Because the first one was I spoke at our graduation at UCLA. And that was the moment where I was like, okay, this is a calling.
Whoa.
That was
That's a
big.
big deal.
I was so nervous, like sick to my stomach. Because this is now, I'm not speaking in front of a group of people I don't know. I'm speaking in front of my peers and my family and their family. Like, that's more nervous for me than speaking in front of thousands of people that I've never seen before. But my favorite one was the Magic Johnson Foundation. I was a member of his scholarship program while I was at UCLA, and he would have a week-long like conference every summer, and he would bring in people to speak at this conference, and they would be like the CEO of FedEx or like, you know, pro athletes, like big names would come and speak to us, right? And the year I graduated, or the year after I graduated, they were having the summer conference, and I got an email that said, "Hi, can you come speak on networking strategies for success at the conference?" And I was like, my first reaction was, "Oh my gosh, whoever sent this is about to get fired." They sent out a mass email to all the alumni asking us all to come speak at the conference. Like, oh my gosh. I was like, let me tell them what they just did. Hey, don't know if you're aware of this, but you just sent me an email asking me to come speak at the conference. I don't know how many people got this. They go, no. That wasn't sent to everybody. That was just sent to you, Marty. We want you to come speak at the conference. And I was like, what? And they go, yeah, Magic is going to address the crowd first, and then you're going to go. Keep in mind, Magic only comes 2 days of this 7-day event. He comes the first day to welcome us, and then the last day on graduation. So I was like, wait a minute. You want me to speak after Magic? Like, no. I freaked out. And this was early days. This was like right after I graduated from UCLA. So me coming back to this conference would be speaking for a group of people that all know me. I was just in their seats less than 12 months ago. They're going to be like, what is Marti doing here? What is she going to say to us? So all these negative things started coming in my head, the doubt, right? The fear, everything just started creeping up. And I still didn't consider myself a speaker yet. And I just decided, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. So I said yes, even though they were like, oh yeah, it's on Thursday. And this was like a Monday. I thought I had like a month or something to prepare. No, it was like 2-3 days. So I was like, all right, I'll do it. And then I get there, and I was actually supposed to go first, and then he was supposed to go next. And they were like, he needs to go first because he has somewhere to be. So he's going to address the crowd and then head out, and then you can go. And I was like, cool, perfect. Let him go, let him leave, so then I can go do my thing, and I don't have the pressure of like having to, go before Magic. And then when it was my turn, in the middle of my presentation, I remember looking up and seeing him sitting in the audience, eating a sandwich, watching me. And I honestly, I kind of froze, and I was like, oh my God, he's still here? Like, what is he doing still here, right? And I ended up kind of speeding through the rest of the presentation because I was just so nervous. And I was like, let me just wrap this up. And then I finish and I try to go just jet back to my seat. He stands up and goes, wait, hold up. Come back up here. He grabs my hand, makes me go back up on the stage. And he said, that was one of the best presentations that I've heard on networking in a long time. Then he brought his whole like executive team up, like his president, his VP. He was like, I want all my team to come up here, and I want you to say one thing that you do that Marti talked about. And like made them all recite something that they do that I talked about. It was crazy. So that was just like that affirmation for me that like, I'm walking in the right path right now. Don't doubt yourself. Say yes even before you're ready, before you think you're ready. Like all those things was just like affirming. So yeah, that would probably be my favorite moment.
It's like you hear these athletes talk about what was your welcome to the league moment,
Yeah.
or like that sounded like that
Right.
was your like mama I made it moment. Like,
right.
Nah, Magic approved this. I don't care what none of y'all say. Magic approved this, and y'all can't tell me nothing for 2 years.
Yeah.
At least.
Exactly.
So congrats on that. Oh man. This has been amazing. Just hearing your your thought process and like how much you have passion for athletes. But we did want to ask you one more question before we transition. What does it mean for Marti to be authentically Marti?
I love that question. What does it mean for Marti to be authentically Marti? So for me, it means that I'm walking in my purpose. I am surrounding myself, or I'm surrounded by people that I don't have to perform for, right? Or I don't feel the need to perform for. I have and I respect my boundaries. Um, I don't think it's easy to be authentically you. To be honest, it isn't easy for me. It's something that I constantly have to work on because I have been trained my whole life. I've been trained, to perform, right?
Mm-hmm.
So being able to walk in my purpose is reminding myself, or being able to be authentically me is reminding myself, what are your core values, and measuring every decision that I make against those values. Like, is this in line with my faith, my family, self growth, and service to others? If it's not going to advance any of those things, then I can respectfully decline or walk away. Even though there's opportunities that might come up that might be great, but I have to have that courage to, walk away from something that's no longer serving my purpose or what I was placed on here to do. So I think that's what being authentically me looks like, what it means. Not easy to do, but I'm trying and trusting myself that I can continue to do that and share on platforms like this. So I appreciate you both for allowing me the space, sharing your space with me today, and allowing me to be a part of this. I really do.
Absolutely. Thank
Oh,
you so
yeah.
much for sharing your story and allowing people just to hear your passion. And I love that answer too. I love what you said about being authentically you. But it is time for our next segment, which is called Rapid Fire.
Bam, bam, bam.
Now, this is where we ask you 3 questions. And it's gonna be the first thing that come to mind. Don't ask your husband. Don't phone any. Don't call up Magic. Like,
Okay.
first thing that comes to mind.
I mean, if you do, have him be on the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, if you do,
Okay.
put it on
Come
speaker
on.
clearly.
Yes.
So, first question is, what's the strangest item in your refrigerator right now, and how did it end up there?
Strangest item in the refrigerator. Probably some makeshift apple cider vinegar mixed with it's like a potion I put together for my skincare routine. How did it end up there? I mean, I was told to preserve it in the fridge, so be careful not to touch that because it's not something you should eat. It's for my skin.
I love it.
If you were to get a tattoo to sum up the last year of your life, what would you get?
The last year of my life, oh my God, I would get a tattoo of a roller coaster. Because it's been a roller coaster of emotions. Woo,
That's
planning
fair.
a wedding, having a wedding, traveling, doing all the things. It's been a lot.
All
It's
right.
been a lot.
And the last question is, what's the most embarrassing sports moment you've ever experienced, either as a player or a spectator?
Oh, okay. I have this one. I remember I was in high school, and you know those like sweatpants that you can pull out that had like the buttons on the side? I was wearing those, and I was going for a ground ball, and I stepped on the bottom of the pants, and it ripped them off, and literally bared myself. Boom, sweatpants off. So embarrassing.
Was this in a game?
No. This was practice. It was practice, but it was embarrassing. I pants myself.
Yeah, right. There was like nobody you could blame it on. Man, this has been an amazing episode. Marti, where can people find you, and what do you have going next?
Oh, love that question. So you can find me on social media, love Instagram and TikTok are the platforms I'm on most often at the Marti Reed. That's spelled TheMartiReed. And then also at themartireed.com, where you can also order my book. It's also found on Amazon, Utility Player Life. And what's coming next is Utility Player Life online courses, baby. Let's go.
Hey, you heard it here
You heard it
first, y'all.
You heard it here first. Yes, breaking news.
Breaking news. Stay tuned.
Again, this has been an amazing episode, Marti. We're so grateful to have you on the podcast today. Well, Marti, I think it's like a mic drop moment. We had a great experience. I felt like we won the national championship with you throughout this episode.
Thank you. That's sweet.
And until next time, Marti, be authentic in everything that you do. Peace.
Peace.
First of all, talk about a UCLA Bruin tried and true. She is the epitome of a student athlete who took what she learned from a prestigious college academically and athletically and turned it into her career, turned it into her life, turned it into her passions. What a great episode with Marti. I'm so thankful to hear her story as a fellow athlete.
Yeah, it's like I'm not an athlete at all. I'm excited to read her book and dive in and think through like how do I not just think of myself as one particular thing, whether it's a father, campus minister, but like how do I grow in other areas so that I'm versatile in life?
Yeah, get her book. It is called The Utility Player Life. Utility Player Life. She said it's on Amazon. You can purchase it from her website. Essentially, it's about how to be a utility player, how to be all those things, like you said, Tony, all those things that you are, and how to do them well, and also how to transition. So, shout out to Marti. So excited. I'm glad that we had her on the podcast. But you guys know what time it is. It is time for the time of all times. I have to get close so you guys can understand.
What time
This is our friendship moment. The friendship moment where we talk about, well, it's not really we're talking about it. We're just learning about each other, and you guys get to go on this journey with us. Simply put. And Tony, do I have a question for you? My question for you, Tony, is, has there been a time where you have felt particularly close or connected with me? And what made that moment special?
Yeah, so I've shared this before on the podcast, but it was the first moment, I think it was at Camp Falling Spring, when I saw you crying. Because, you know, like we always say, like, I saw a black man crying, gave me permission to cry when that was the appropriate emotion.
Just so you guys know, I'm still a thug. I'm just kidding. But
I'm so hood.
it's okay to cry, guys. Especially men. It's okay to cry. It's okay to show emotions. You don't need to bottle those things up, which we talk a lot about throughout our podcast. So thank you guys for rocking with us. Tony, thank you for sharing that moment. I'm so glad that we get to share these moments together. And we get to share those with you guys, our guests, and our listeners and our viewers now, because we're on YouTube.